It was a quiet evening, the kind where the sky paints itself in shades of orange and pink as the sun prepares to bid farewell for the day. The old bridge, towering high above a swiftly flowing river, was normally just a place people passed without much thought. But today, everything changed in an instant. On the edge of that bridge, a tiny German shepherd puppy found himself in a terrifying predicament. His small paws struggled desperately to find purchase on the narrow, slippery concrete ledge. Below him, the river was no gentle stream. It was a roaring beast, churning and crashing over jagged rocks. From the street nearby, car engines suddenly slammed on brakes as drivers spotted the scene unfolding above. Honking filled the air in a frantic attempt to warn others, but all attention was glued to the trembling puppy. People on the sidewalk stopped mid-step, their hearts pounding. Somewhere close, a child's panicked scream shattered the evening. Calm, echoing like a cry for help that no one could ignore. The puppy's body trembled, his little legs slipping, and in a breathless moment, he lost his grip. Gravity took over, and the pup began falling, a blur against the sky, hurtling toward the dangerous river below. For a split second, time seemed to freeze. Would this small life be lost forever? Or was there some unseen force ready to intervene? No. One watching that terrifying fall believed the puppy would survive. It was impossible. The height, the rushing water, the jagged rocks, all signs pointed toward a tragic ending. But sometimes, the world surprises us in the most extraordinary ways. What happened next defied all logic, reason, and expectation. Against every odd, this fragile little pup didn't just survive. He was saved by something that could only be described as a miracle. A twist of fate that no one could have predicted. A moment so unbelievable it would leave everyone who heard the story in complete awe. This wasn't just a story of survival, it was the beginning of an incredible journey. A journey that showed how courage, hope, and a little bit of magic can turn even the darkest moments into shining miracles. This tiny German shepherd puppy wasn't just any stray. He was special. His name was Nico, a spirited little pup with bright eyes full of curiosity and hope despite his harsh reality. Nico's life had started on the streets, born under the shadow of an abandoned building where food was scarce and danger was everywhere. His mother, a gentle stray, had done her best to protect her litter, but one by one, circumstances tore them apart. From the moment he opened his eyes, Nico had to learn how to survive in a world that didn't care much for a helpless puppy. Left. To fend for himself, abandoned and alone, he quickly discovered that kindness was rare, but hope was something he carried deep inside. Despite his small size, Nico showed an unstoppable spirit, a will to live, to find warmth, and to belong. He had no home, no family, but he had a spark that would soon ignite an extraordinary story, a story that began with struggle and would lead to a miracle. Life as a stray wasn't easy for Nico. Every day was a battle for survival. He scavenged for scraps wherever he could find them. Leftover food tossed into bins or dropped by careless pedestrians. Hunger was a constant companion, gnawing at his small belly. People often shooed him away, scared or annoyed by his presence. Many days, the biting cold seeped through his thin fur as he curled up in dark corners or under broken crates, trying to find shelter from the harsh world. Loneliness was perhaps the heaviest burden he carried. At night, the city's harsh noises echoed around him, but there was no comfort, no warmth beside him. Nico longed for a gentle hand, a voice that whispered safety and love. But all he had was the endless struggle and a fragile hope that tomorrow might be better. Despite everything, Nico's spirit never broke. His eyes remained bright, his tail wagged when he caught a friendly smile, and his heart stayed open to the possibility that life could change, if only for the better. One day, driven by hunger and the faint scent of something familiar, Nico found himself wandering towards the old bridge. It wasn't a place he knew well, but the smell of food, or something alive, pulled him forward. Perhaps it was the faint whimper of a trapped animal, or the scent of a hidden meal dropped by careless travelers. As he trotted along the narrow walkway, curiosity pushed him closer to the edge. The bridge stretched high above the roaring river, but Nico didn't understand the danger. His small mind was focused on the mystery ahead, a new scent, a new hope. Little did he know, this walk would lead him to the edge of disaster. Yet, it was also the moment that set the stage for an unbelievable miracle, one that would change his life forever. The wind howled fiercely as little Nico cautiously made his way along the narrow edge of the old bridge, his tiny paws barely making a sound against the cold concrete, but the air was filled with tension. Around him, cars rushed by, their horns blaring urgently as if warning of the danger that loomed. The river below roared like a wild beast, swirling with unseen power and menace. Every step Nico took was filled with hesitation, but also determination. The bridge was high, terrifyingly high, but something deeper in his instincts pushed him forward. The gusts tugged at his fur, threatening to throw him off balance, yet his eyes were locked on something ahead. His heart pounded louder than the cars. The city's chaos seemed distant now, but danger was closer than anyone imagined. Onlookers below glanced up briefly, some pointing, but no one could predict what was about to unfold. In that moment, time seemed to slow, the suspense almost unbearable. Then Nico saw it, a desperate, helpless sight that no puppy could ignore. Caught in a plastic shopping bag, floating helplessly near the riverbank, were tiny kittens, their cries muffled and fading. Someone careless had thrown the bag into the river, condemning the fragile lives inside to a watery grave. Without a second thought, Nico's brave heart took over. Ignoring the danger, he leapt off the edge of the bridge, diving toward the swirling water below. It wasn't a reckless act. It was a pure, selfless attempt to save the innocent. The cold water hit him hard, the river's current trying to pull him away, but his focus was unbreakable. The tiny kitten's survival depended on him, and he was determined to be their guardian angel. But fate had a cruel twist in store. As Nico fought the relentless current, slipping and sliding against sharp rocks, he struggled to keep his hold on the fragile plastic bag. Suddenly, a powerful wave swept him away, and in a heart-stopping moment, he slipped, tumbling from the chaotic riverbank into the depths below. For a breathless second, the world seemed to freeze. His paws scrambled for grip, his eyes wide with fear and hope all at once. The fall was terrifying, a plunge that should have been his end. Yet as everyone watched holding their breath, the impossible was about to happen. A miracle was quietly unfolding beneath the roaring water. As Nico plummeted from the bridge, the world seemed ready to close in on him. The roaring river below was a cruel reminder of the danger, and the unforgiving height promised a tragic end. But just when it seemed like there was no hope, nature itself seemed to intervene in the most unexpected way. A sudden, strong gust of wind swept across the river valley, twisting and turning Nico's fall. Instead of plunging directly into the jagged rocks or the violent current, he was gently pushed toward a dense, bushy patch growing stubbornly on the steep riverbank. The thick green branches reached out almost like an unseen hand, cushioning his landing and absorbing the brutal impact that would have otherwise crushed his tiny body. Or perhaps it was an old, tangled fishing net caught between rocks, worn and forgotten by time. That broke his fall just in time. The net trembled under his weight, but held firm enough to prevent him from hitting the unforgiving rocks below. Either way, the miracle was undeniable. Something had shifted fate just enough to give Nico a fighting chance. He lay there, bruised and battered, his little chest rising and falling in shallow gasps. The water from the river splashed nearby, cold and relentless. But it wasn't the end. The cruel fall had been softened by this strange twist of fate. Against all odds, Nico was alive, a fragile survivor caught in nature's last-minute embrace. When the rescuer finally spotted him, Nico was barely conscious, tangled in the wild brush and soaked to the bone. His fur was matted and his tiny body shook with pain and exhaustion. Multiple bruises marked his delicate frame, and his breathing was shallow, but the heart that had refused to give up was still beating strong. Doctors would later call it a 1 in a million chance. Most animals falling from such a height into a raging river would not survive the impact or the cold. But this little German shepherd pup, with a spirit fiercer than the storm, had beaten the odds. Every moment counted. The chilling cold threatened hypothermia, and his injuries demanded urgent care. But Nico's survival was proof that sometimes miracles happen when you least expect them. Against all logic, against all fear, he had made it through. A small life, bruised but unbroken, waiting for the chance to be rescued, to heal, and to inspire those who would soon hear his incredible story. The sun was beginning to dip behind the trees, casting long shadows over the riverbank. A lone hiker, named Emma, was making her usual evening trek along the winding trail when something barely audible caught her attention, a faint, desperate whimper echoing from the dense bushes below the bridge. At first, Emma thought it might be the wind or a small bird, but the sound grew more insistent, filled with pain and fear. Her heart skipped a beat when she realized it was the cry of a helpless animal. She scanned the rocky riverbank carefully, eyes narrowing through the thick underbrush. There, tangled among the rocks and drenched in cold river water, was a tiny German shepherd puppy. He was shivering violently, barely moving, trapped in a patch of bushes with the river's current, creeping dangerously close. His fur was soaked, his body bruised, and his eyes fluttered weakly. Emma's heart broke at the sight. This little life was hanging by a thread. Without hesitation, she knew she had to act fast. Despite the steep and slippery rocks beneath her feet, she carefully began her descent down the treacherous path, every step weighed with urgency and worry. She was risking her own safety to save this fragile pup, driven by compassion and a fierce determination that sometimes only strangers show in moments of crisis. As Emma reached Nico, she saw the rising water inching closer, threatening to sweep him away in the growing current. The river's roar grew louder. The moment was critical. She quickly scanned her surroundings for something to help. A long rope in her backpack, a sturdy jacket torn off her back, anything to pull him out safely. With trembling hands, Emma secured the rope around her waist and carefully reached for the trembling puppy. Nico was limp, unconscious, bruised all over, but his tiny heart was still beating, fighting to survive. Slowly, carefully, inch by inch, Emma pulled him out of the dangerous grasp of the river. Her muscles burned, her breath came in sharp gasps, but she never faltered. Every second was a battle against time and nature's unforgiving elements. Finally, with a last heave, Nico was safe on the rocky shore. Emma wrapped him in her jacket, whispering soothing words as she cradled the fragile pup to her chest. The rescue was not just a physical struggle. It was a moment of hope, of humanity, a second chance for a life almost lost. When Emma rushed Nico to the nearest veterinary clinic, the medical team was prepared for the worst. Falls from such heights rarely ended with survivors, especially not tiny puppies as fragile as Nico. The vet, Dr. Hassan, carefully examined the pup, his face growing more incredulous by the minute. Multiple fractures were visible in Nico's tiny legs, his head showed signs of trauma, and his body was battered and bruised. Yet astonishingly, the scans revealed no internal bleeding or damage to vital organs. "This is nothing short of a miracle," Dr. Hassan muttered in disbelief. "Puppies usually don't survive falls like this, let alone come through without life-threatening internal injuries." The vet team sprang into action, setting Nico's fractures with delicate precision and administering pain relief. Their efforts focused on stabilizing him, knowing the toughest battle had just begun. The long road to healing. The days that followed were filled with gentle care and relentless hope. Nico's recovery was slow but steady. Emma stayed by his side, spoon-feeding him warm broth and medicine, encouraging even the faintest wag of his tail. Physical therapy sessions began as soon as Nico was stable enough, careful movements to rebuild strength in his shattered limbs. Each day brought small victories, a trembling step, a cautious stretch, a flicker of playfulness. Though the journey was exhausting, the light in Nico's eyes grew stronger, a silent promise of the life he was determined to reclaim. Emma's daily visits became Nico's lifeline. At first, the puppy barely acknowledged her presence, but gradually, recognition blossomed. He began to respond to her gentle voice and familiar scent, leaning into her touch despite his pain. A profound bond formed, one built on trust, patience, and unwavering love. In those quiet moments, holding Nico close, Emma knew this was no ordinary rescue. It was the beginning of a lifetime connection, a shared story of survival and hope that neither would ever forget. After weeks of tender care and rehabilitation, Emma knew she couldn't imagine life without Nico. The bond they had forged through trials and healing was unbreakable, so, with a heart full of hope, she officially adopted him. No longer just a stray or a rescued pup, Nico, whom Emma affectionately renamed Rufy, now had a forever home filled with warmth, love, and security. In this new chapter, Rufy blossomed like a flower after a harsh winter. His once tired, weak limbs grew strong and agile. The sparkle returned to his eyes, replaced by joyous energy and curiosity. He chased balls in the yard, learned tricks, and greeted every new day with a wagging tail and boundless enthusiasm. The transformation was nothing short of miraculous, a living testament to resilience and second chances. Neighbors who once passed him with indifferent glances now stopped to marvel at the once-abandoned puppy thriving under Emma's care. Rufy wasn't just surviving, he was thriving, full of life and happiness. Emma often whispered to him, "You're my little miracle," and Rufy seemed to understand, showering her with loyal companionship and unconditional love. Just months after his recovery, Rufy proved that miracles aren't just about survival, they're about purpose. One sunny afternoon by a nearby lake, a young child slipped into the water, struggling and panicking. Before anyone else noticed the danger, Rufy's ears perked up. He sensed the distress instinctively. Without hesitation, he plunged into the high lake, paddling fiercely to the child's side. His quick action bought precious moments until help arrived. The child was saved, thanks to Rufy's courage and sharp instincts. News of Rufy's heroic rescue spread quickly, turning the once stray puppy into a local legend. But Rufy's story didn't end there. Recognizing his gentle spirit and keen awareness, Emma trained him as a therapy dog. Rufy began visiting hospitals and trauma centers, offering comfort and hope to patients struggling through their darkest hours. His calm presence and warm eyes healed wounds that medicine couldn't touch. From a frightened pup abandoned to fate, Rufy had become the miracle puppy, a symbol of hope, bravery, and the extraordinary power of love. Rufy's story is nothing short of astonishing. He survived a fall from a height no puppy should ever endure, an accident that should have ended his life in an instant. But fate, it seems, had a different plan. Against every odd, against every expectation, this tiny German shepherd pup clung to life and fought through pain and fear. His survival was not just a stroke of luck, but a powerful reminder that sometimes miracles do happen. Rufy's journey from abandoned stray to the miraculous survivor touches something deep inside all of us, a hope that no matter how dark or desperate the moment, life has a way of shining through. This story is not just about survival. It's about the incredible strength and resilience that exists in even the smallest and most vulnerable creatures. It shows how compassion and kindness can change the course of a life. Rufy's fall was tragic, but it also opened the door to an incredible new beginning filled with love, courage, and purpose. Rufy's experience teaches us an essential truth. Even in the darkest moments, a single spark of hope can ignite a profound change. No matter how lost or helpless someone or something might seem, giving them a chance can transform their destiny. It reminds us never to give up on those who cannot speak for themselves, because sometimes the most unexpected miracles come from the most unlikely places. This story challenges us to open our hearts wider, to be the light in someone's darkest hour. Miracles are real, but they often come disguised in struggle, patience, and unwavering belief. Rufy's life stands as proof that with love and determination, the impossible can become possible. If Rufy's incredible journey has touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Share this story with someone who needs a reminder that hope never dies. Together, we can spread the message that miracles happen every day if we only believe. And now, we want to hear from you. Do you believe in miracles? Have you ever witnessed a moment that changed everything against all odds? Share your thoughts and stories in the comments below. Let's inspire each other with hope, love, and faith in the impossible.